We can spend a few minutes on probably the biggest story of the week. Our friends at Facebook seem to have quite the week between an outage, a 60-minute special, a congressional testimony, and then a PR response, and then a Zuckerberg response. Pretty much this was their week. And I don't think it went very well for them, to say the least. Uh, I would say like the focus of the whole story was not so much, I would say, privacy to an extent. It was a lot more about, like the harm that Facebook is doing in society and like all that kind of stuff. So not so much on topic. But I mean, it's definitely a story, but I mean, most people probably have an idea of what's been going on, and there's a lot of good writing on it in general. But do you guys have any like hot takes off of what's kind of transpired over the week, or just not good? And that's pretty much it.
This is exactly what I expected from Facebook, the way they responded. And so let's just say I don't have high expectations on Facebook, and they certainly met those expectations.
I'll just say it's always interesting when we know who the faces of the company are. It's Zuckerberg and Sheryl Sandberg. But they had, in response to the person that had the testimony, the former employee, they broke out somebody I had never heard of. And that poor lady had to try to defend all this stuff. And yeah, it's just so, to me, it's kind of a cynical approach when, you got the main faces out there when things are, pretty good. But when stuff like this happens, they trot somebody else out who is this person? Where's Zuck? Where's Sheryl?
I think Zuck was on a boat, Brent.
I don't know.
I was talking about the lawsuit tracker or cases like these in the past, right? If somebody is following these, there is obviously a trend and a pattern here. Now, at some point, you got to look inside and question, is this what we want to be doing? And that doesn't seem to be happening.
Yeah. Two things I thought were kind of interesting, or not really interesting. First is funny, I guess. I don't know if you guys remember when like Amazon was going through like their unionization drama a couple months ago, and like they were trying to shut down the union, I think in like Alabama or somewhere like that. They got like some new social media person, and that social media person was just like super snarky and like replying to a bunch of people like, you don't really think we make our employees like urinate in water bottles? And it turns out obviously they were, but like it just like became like a very like aggressive social media person handling the Amazon account. And then in Facebook's PR response, they basically just like trashed this woman as if she was like a nobody. They were like, like she's never had a meeting with the C-level thing. There's nothing more like, I would say like self-righteous, or I mean, technically I think the term is douchey, but I'm not really sure what the PC term is. But like to like have like a PR response like, oh, they've never met with the C-level person, so they don't know what's going on, or they're not that important, and she has no direct reports, therefore her opinions are like irrelevant or whatever. Like it was just like a lot of like shaming unnecessarily, which obviously is not a very good thing. But the second thing I think was interesting was kind of what we talked about earlier on about research and stuff like that, right? Because a lot of the story was based around what kind of research has been done, what the results are kind of showing. And Zuck's response was, I think, hilarious in itself, because I think it was like 5 or 7 times he writes basically industry leading research as what they've been doing. And he's like, we wouldn't be doing this industry leading research if we weren't trying to get to the root causes, right? But I think the tobacco analogy is probably hyperbole to an extent, but it doesn't mean that there's not a correlation. Tobacco obviously had a bunch of research based on, high profile, highly paid educational people that were well respected in their fields, and they basically just bought them off. And there's nothing, there's no doubt in my mind that that's not the same thing that other people do as well, right? Facebook does it, Google does it, all these large companies that publish these, types of reports. If a vendor sponsors a report, it's said with a grain of salt. They're not going to come out with a report that says like, we suck. And even then, how bad is it that you paid for a report and that report comes out and says, you guys are terrible for society? It's like, all right, cool, man, calm down. You need to find a different job, or we'll move you to a different field of research. Those aren't the conclusions we really want you to be making with this kind of research, right? And so I think that's kind of problematic, right? I mean, like and again, you're industry leading research because you are the industry. I mean, that's why you're industry leading. Like you're not really doing it any other way. But I mean, at the end of the day, what really happens, I don't know. I think everybody's kind of just upset about Facebook in general. Nobody really seems to be like, oh yeah, they're doing great. Like, they're good for society. I'm not sure anybody really feels that strongly positively about it, right? Everyone's got a gripe, whether it's, one issue or another. They're just taking it from every angle, which is not very good for them.
And when a vendor does a research, and if if it basically aligns with what they're thinking, for sure the research comes out publicly. Mm-hmm. If it doesn't, which it didn't in this case, that tells you everything you need to know.
Yeah, because they never published the reports, right? The actual research reports were never actually shared. And it's like, if you just want to be transparent, you would just share the actual findings and be like, look, see for yourself. It's not that bad.